early Santa Claus. Hello, my friends. This is Andy and Hedia coming to you live from Orange County, California.
You have to think about that for a minute.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say the city, and I always try to say the county.
Oh.
Just, the OC. Because hardly anybody knows where our city is. You didn't know where our city was.
I did not. I didn't even know it existed.
Your mic. Yeah, well, now you do. And it's an amazing place.
Isn't it?
Yes. It's pretty awesome.
The land of gracious living.
And a lot of Republicans. Hey, go to CaliforniaParentAlliance.org and subscribe as soon as you can, please, so that we can get you on our list, so we can let you know how you can change what is happening to our kids in our schools. It's so important. And I like today's devotional. It hits right to the point. It reminds me of law enforcement.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, it does.
I think we're going to hear about that then.
Probably. Oh, never mind. Hey, there's the book we're reading from, Smith Wigglesworth Devotional. That was my phone that just hit the ground. And I'm really liking Smith Wigglesworth these days. He does confuse me from time to time because he speaks a little bit over my noggin, which isn't that hard because I'm not that tall. But I do like how he's brought some really new concepts and things that some of them have bothered me in the past,
Yeah.
And just really, forces me to really consider some of the different ways of looking at stuff. And it's helping me grow. So I love it.
That's awesome.
So Smith Wigglesworth Devotional for November 18th is entitled Discernment versus Judging. The reference is 1 Corinthians 12:10, to another discerning of spirits. The scripture reading is Romans 2:1-13. Smith says, discernment is a very necessary gift to understand. Most people seem to think it is a discerning of human persons.
Yeah.
It is amazing to find that many people I come across seem to have a tremendous bent toward discerning others. If you carefully put this discerning of one another into real practice upon yourself for 12 months, you will never presume to try it upon another. You will see so many faults about yourself that you will say, oh God, make me right.
So good.
There is a vast difference between natural discernment and spiritual discernment. This statement of Jesus is remarkable. From Matthew 7:4-5. How can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Remember that if you begin judging, it will lead you to judgment. If you begin using your discernment to weigh people by your standards, it will lead you to judgment. Ever since God showed me Romans 2:1-3, I have been very careful to examine myself before I begin judging. Balance that in your heart. It will save you from judging. The notable people in the world have gotten to running another person down and finding fault. They are always fault finding and judging people outright. I find that those people always fall in the mire. If I were to mention these people by name, you would know that what I am saying is true. God save us from criticism. When you are pure in heart, we only think about pure things. When we are impure in heart, we speak and act and think as we are in our hearts. The pure in heart see purity. Thought for today, my God, give us the inward desire for purity so that he can take away judging.
My God. May God.
May, did I say what I say?
My God.
Well, it's my God.
It is true.
My God said this. May God give us that inward desire for purity so that he can take away judging.
Oh, such a controversial subject in church. Judging.
Yeah.
Judgy, don't be judgy. And the minute you say something about anything in our doctrine, everyone's like, oh, that's judgmental. You shouldn't say that. Whether it's about issues that are controversial, politics, whatever it is, people are like, well, that's very judgmental. We're supposed to be full of grace and love. And to me, I think one of the easier ways of creating a delineation between judging and trying to preach the gospel is basically witnessing. So in other words, you tell people about what God's expectations are of us based on our understanding of the Bible without personalizing it. Basically, like, we shouldn't be adulterers and fornicators. That's in the gospel. That's in the Bible. So, but we don't have to say, oh, I think so-and-so is an adulterer. I think he's fornicating. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think he's got a girlfriend.
Right.
Instead of personalizing it and turning it into gossip and being judgmental about, well, that person's got this sin, we instead should be preaching about the truth of the gospel.
Right.
What's that? How does that sound?
Yes.
Okay.
Because quite often we can see people with a resting bee face.
I'm trying to work on mine. I look in our videos sometimes and I'm like, do I have that?
I wasn't
like,
even talking about you.
I know, but I don't like it either.
But sometimes you'll see people like that, and there's a person that there's a person at the church we go to that I see often, and then up until we actually started talking, I always thought that she was angry.
Angry. That's a good word for it.
And then when I met her, I go, she's the most delightful person I've ever met. I mean, not the most, but she's very delightful.
Wow.
Yeah. And I go, oh my gosh, for this whole time, I thought she was
interesting.
Yeah.
Who's that?
I'm not going to tell you on camera.
Oh, I'm curious now.
It's not one of our regular viewers, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they may view it. I just don't know it.
Okay.
But
and I love that he's pointing us to
that's judge. I mean, I'm making a judgment, and and then I go, oh my gosh, I'm like,
so
that was like so dramatic. Like, oh my gosh, they were so nice, great people.
That's really
her and her
nice.
husband. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I think it's also good that he suggests that we turn it on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
The discernment. Everybody, and I love that because everybody in the church is like that. I have very good discernment. He sucks. Like, it's never like I have so much discernment over myself. I suck.
Right.
So I think that's very sage advice.
Yes. I think we should read just Romans 1-3.
Yes.
Because it mentions it, but it doesn't.
Therefore, you are inexcusable, O man, whoever you are who judge. For in whatever you judge another, you condemn yourself. For you who judge practice the same things. But we know that the judgment of God is according to truth against those who practice such things. And do you think this, O man, you who judge those practicing such things and doing the same, that you will escape the judgment of God? And since we've just finished this section of the Bible at Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills with Pastor Jack, he has given us a very lengthy admonishment in connection to these verses, which is a lot of people are quite hypocritical in the sense that they look at other people's sins, lust after those same things in their hearts, and even may commit them, but judge other people as negative. So again, in terms of lust or lust of the eyes or some other kind of sin that they may be engaging in their hearts, but not vocalizing it, and then passing judgment on somebody else. And God says, that's the worst of you.
Right.
So
there's a couple different things that are flowing through my noggin, but let's just read. No, it's down here at the bottom, I think. Let's read it. It's Romans 2:12 and 13. It says, for as many as have sinned without law will also perish without law. And as many as have sinned in the law will be judged by the law. And then in parentheses, for not the hearers of the law are just in the sight of God, but the doers of the law will be justified. And I'm assuming it goes on to close the parentheses. But it was this part of Romans 2 that really got me thinking about law enforcement. And then the rest of it just began to all click together. Because one thing that's not allowed, one thing that is not an excuse for breaking the law is ignorance of the law.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Right. I did not know. And that reminded me, and this is clearly where they got it. But yeah, I mean.
There's another one.
Yes. But we are born with this is another the obvious argument for the existence of God is that we are born with certain morals.
Right.
The
mind of God is
early
we're
on.
all born with that.
As a young child, as a baby, you don't necessarily tell a baby that stealing is wrong or taking something without permission is wrong. But very early on, you see them hiding stuff. Right? They grab something and they go, "Oh, I don't." Right? Like if they didn't know that, they would just show it. Right?
Well, and it's funny because Pastor Mark Driscoll refers to that as their sin nature because they want to steal.
Yes.
And they hide it.
Yeah, but they know it's wrong.
Right.
So this is the first thing that took me there. And then I began to think about how in law enforcement, one of the worst things you can do in investigating a crime is judging somebody, being the judge and the executioner, right? Judge, jury, and executioner. And quite often we're, as law enforcement, if you didn't know, I was a police officer, that we always have to be careful. Sure. Because in enforcing the law, we can actively see somebody committing a crime, like when we're pursuing them, and the plate comes back as stolen, that kind of stuff, and then they're running, and then we make assumptions that they must be guilty, or else they wouldn't be driving at 120 miles an hour down the 5 freeway towards San Diego, towards the border. And so, that clearly puts us in a position of probably pretty clear that they are guilty. But in other crimes,
or maybe they're just afraid.
Or they're just
you're
afraid.
The popo.
Exactly. But there's all these things that we run into all the time, whether it's as clear as something like that, or maybe not so clear, and then something where we're investigating a crime where we think somebody is the perpetrator. And in that investigation, you can really cause things to go wrong if you've already judged them and convicted them in your mind.
Right.
You'll do some things that are just not.
We do that to our friends or acquaintances too.
Yes. But it's we can run into problems civilly as law enforcement if we do that. And then also, now to turn it around and on the hypocrite side of things, is that one of the things that we have to be careful about and understand that people are always watching us too, especially those that know that we're law enforcement. And I really made it a very strong point to try not to do anything bad in the city of Anaheim, whereas I was a police officer.
Oh,
like speed or roll through a stop sign, go through red lights.
But you could do it in Brea. That's fantastic. Lucky for you, Jesus is omnipresent.
I know.
You can't limit him to just Anaheim.
But you know what I'm saying? But it should have bled to everything.
Yes,
that's exactly what I'm saying. Is that we become I am the law, so now I can violate the law.
Exactly.
Of course, that's a lot.
Same thing we do as parents.
Yeah.
The most hypocritical job in the planet is parents. You tell your kids, don't drink, don't smoke, don't fornicate. You're like, I did all of those things at that age, but I don't want you doing them.
Yes.
And I told my daughter, I was like, listen, I don't want you doing them because they lead to very bad things. Yes. I'm not saying you're not going to make the same, you know what I mean? That you're not going to do some of those things, but I don't want to know about it. So,
I don't want to know about it.
I don't.
Well,
I have a rule. I said that, if you do something that you're not supposed to do, you get punished. If you do something you're not supposed to do and you get caught and you're stupid, you get punished twice. So I'm sorry. This is the old Hedia speaking. I'm trying.
That is not biblical.
That's not biblical. I'm trying to teach. Because let's see if I can turn this around. I just want her to use her discernment.
Right.
Yes. Her internal discernment. Should I do this? Is it worth it? Is it bad? Is it wrong? I want her to have that internal conversation and realize, if I do something really stupid, it's going to cost me.
Right. I hear you. But I had this discussion. It wasn't maybe like 3 days ago. I had this discussion with my kids. I said, listen, you guys act like I have no idea what happens in high school. I have no idea what happens, even though there's a little bit of a new world with social media, and it's slightly, it's not slightly, it's much easier to fall into sin.
Yes.
With the internet.
Yes.
And that type of stuff. I said, it was, I know things. And plus I was a police officer in sex crimes. I was investigating these crimes when they were very early happening. We were developing and trying to figure out how we were going to combat crimes on the internet with child pornography and, other types of stuff that was going on.
Yes.
And so I tried to explain to them, I know you're pretending, or you're thinking that because I'm, 50 some odd years old, that I have no idea what you guys are going through.
Right.
I know what you're going through. I said, my job is to teach you that maybe in the cases where I did do the things that I'm going to punish you for, is that I'm trying to tell you that they the results of some of these things are very bad, and they will change your life.
Yes.
And you may want to have a career in doing something spectacular, and because of a decision you made when you were 15, 16, 17, or 18, it will completely destroy that dream.
Yes.
Of being able to
and
do
I've told my daughter the same thing since she was really young.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's our law enforcement background, because I built so many community-based programs about internet safety and multidisciplinary teams, and catching kids that are a danger to themselves and others, homicidal, suicidal, warning signs, and social emotional disturbances, and what have you. And so I'm constantly trying to inculcate that in her, and I think that's where we're coming from. Even though our children open the door to a complete stranger, our children
both
are like
we couldn't blame the other one's kid.
No, I mean, like, how many times have they been told that? And they opened a door to a complete stranger at 9:00 at night who said he was a handyman. I mean, I was like, what handyman? And she's like, he was in a blue handyman outfit. And I was like,
oh,
what blue? What guy in a blue handyman outfit come to the door at 9:00? I still haven't figured out who that was, but yeah. So as much as we try to protect them, they still may sometimes.
Well, they escaped that one. So we're able to, because I talked to Ray about it too. And she goes, I will never do that again. I go, you should have done it the first time. How many times have we talked about this?
Right.
I mean, just when they walk to the store, I go, okay, what happens when somebody stops? I kick them in the balls and I scream and I act like a crazy person. Yes. Exactly.
That's the same class I taught. I love that.
I don't care who it is. You can apologize later.
Right.
But if somebody grabs you and tries to take you somewhere,
say whatever it costs, don't go.
Act like a crazy maniac.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just go crazy and run and scream as loud as you possibly can.
Yes.
And they knew all the neighbors where we live. Now we know nobody.
And so it wasn't. So when you talked to her about it, was she just like after the fact scared?
Yeah.
They weren't scared at the time. That's so weird.
I know. So back to the devotional here. Let's
Discernment.
Go to 1 Corinthians 12:10.
Again, 1 Corinthians 12 is all about the gifts of the Spirit. So this is to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of spirits, to another different kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. So this calls to mind our Pastor Jack did last night a Q&A. Mm-hmm. It was supposed to be a Q&A about Hebrews, but it turned out to be a Q&A about everything.
Bible.
Yes. Everything to do with Christianity and the world, the universe. Yeah. And so one of the questions that somebody asked, which I loved, and I think it was the pastor of the Big Barn Church. There was this gorgeous Big Barn Church that broadcasts, that televises Jack every week. And he said, what do you think is causing this decay, sickness in the church right now? The Lord predicted the great falling away of the church, but what do you think is at the root of it? And I love Jack's answer. And to me, it's basically two sides of the same coin. One, he says, much of the church has lost the Holy Spirit, the guidance of the Holy Spirit. They are basically on autopilot, preaching what they think is in the Bible and going through like kind of rogue memorization. They're not allowing the Spirit to move in the church and transform lives and dictate the direction of the church. And he says, and on the other extreme, the church has been decapitated, where it's a body with no head. So they basically have lost the fact that Jesus Christ is the head of the church. And so it's all about doing church. And he says, and they can be very effective. They could be wealthy. They could be mobilizing people, but Jesus is no longer the head of that institution. Right. And so it's, like the woke churches that we talk about, where it's just like, they're like, well, yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're a same-sex couple, and doesn't matter whether you're doing this or that, and God forgives, and God's all about love. And you know what I mean? There's multiple ways to God, and it's all the same God, and all that silliness.
Yeah, I was thinking about,
I was thinking of that one.
If we were there last night, that I would have asked something not on Hebrews.
Well, it's just like, wow, I get to ask Pastor Jack anything. I would have asked him about Revelation 19:10. Is that an angel or is that a person?
That's what I would have asked.
Yes.
I would let you ask it because you would have been more articulate.
No. I honestly am thinking of texting him that question.
You should.
Because I'm dying to know the answer.
From his perspective.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
I mean, because I'm going to be doing my show on Testimony of Prophecy today. So I just would love to know that John actually encountered a person that.
Yeah. You got to text him. One other thing, and this is a little bit of just an observation that I've had about myself.
About yourself. That's good. Discernment. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Having discernment.
I think that I'm doing better.
What are you doing better at?
Because my son, Kelly.
Did he tell you you're fantastic? Because that's a major accomplishment. When your kid tells you, wow, you're really sweet. You've achieved the gold star of parenthood.
Yeah. I mean, just that they bring up all the time. You used to do, like, they'll say something like that. You used to do this. And
now they say it in past tense. I love that.
How come some of the things that you used to do, you don't want us doing now? That's
what's that? Like what?
I don't know.
Especially in relation to them, some of the things you want them to do, not you used to do. Like, how come you're not drunk on the floor anymore, Daddy?
Listen, I'm going to say something, but it's not like I walked around doing it. But on occasion with boys, you'll let out a big burp, right? And stuff like that. Sure. With the boys, right? Not in a restaurant, at the house, just to shock them. And there may have been an occasion where I would work one up, but it's been years. It's been a long time since I walked into a room and did that to them, and it's really because it's gross.
And you get so mad at them when they do it. I do,
because I told them, I said, okay, listen, we can't be doing this stuff because now that we have girls around, and then when Ray did it when she was like, I don't know, 7 or 8.
Because it's like, how could you say no? Boys are allowed to do that, but
exactly. And that's kind of the thing. And so Ray did. I go, okay, Ray, you can't go around doing that. And I think Courtney may have done it once too. And I said,
oh God, no, Sarah does too.
Madness. We can't be going out to places and getting this regular. Girls, number one, you should not be doing that.
Period. Full stop.
Ever. And then boys, we have to set a good example. And so that's when it became a thing not to do. I said, you can burp without it, rocking the windows,
right,
and opening doors and the cabinets, and saying your ABCs.
Oh,
like it's cute when you're little, like 4 or 5 years old, but as now, none of all the kids are now old, like 11.
Yeah,
8 and 11. But that was what we were talking about. Like, how can you get so mad at us now? Like I go, we've had this discussion. I said, listen, we are.
And that's what leads them to think it's something you're doing to impress me.
But it happened before you. We had this discussion
before. They have that point of reference. And so when they say that comment that they said, you're that word, which I'm not going to repeat because I hate it, that they associate, because your transformation happened where you encountered the Holy Spirit, you met Jesus Christ 6 months before we were together. So they associate those two things with the same, they are associating your transformation with meeting me, when it's not just meeting me, it's meeting the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And so I totally get that context for them.
Yes. But they used to say that even before you came around. I mean, with so how come you're all now reading the Bible and stuff?
Right.
How come you're all now? And that was like, early on when I was doing the devotionals. And how come you're talking and making us pray? Like but now after the fact, now it has to do with you, right? It's kind of like, never mind. I could go, in relationships,
Yes.
even though you've met somebody like years after something, now the downfall of the relationship is you.
Yes.
I go, well, it was 6 years after the fact, but that's what their mind just kind of like says.
It's a story.
All of a sudden you decided you're all holy. I go, listen, I'm still a sinner and I'm still working on myself. But again, it's good to hear them notice a difference enough to where they go, how come you used to?
Yes.
And then they talked about whatever it was.
Nice.
That one discussion, I think that the one about burping was with Rhett. The one with Kelly was about something different, but Rhett was the one who said, how come we can't burp now? Because we have girls. We live with girls. that was really my discussion. I said, we live with girls, and I've told you about that.
And what kind of influence is that on my girl who's just walking around burping constantly?
She'll stop with it. At some point, she's got to understand that that's not what girls do.
And I think she does it also for shock value, because I am so like mortified by it. It's so not me. It's so not her grandmother. Like no woman in our family does that ever. No man in our family. Actually, my brother's never been. It's just never. And I just don't know where she gets it. Anyway, sorry, folks. We saw a couple of squirrels.
Yeah, well, it had to do with discernment, and that's what I was trying to teach him. I said, again, I tell him when you're out with the boys out hunting doves. And you're out in the brush, because sometimes you'll be in the brush and you'll have your shotgun ready looking for the birds. Somebody just for fun will burp out loud and go, oh, where's that bird? What kind of bird is that? It'll be like a funny joke. So there's a time for humor, but in a certain environment, I try to teach them discernment. Sometimes it's okay to have a little light moment where we laugh about body functions, but not at the dinner table.
Yes.
Not when guests are over.
Yes.
Not when you're on a date.
Yes.
All those things. So discernment. So important. We talked about burping on devotional.
That's where you take us, folks. That's all on you.
Nobody's commenting, and we clearly have just really slayed the audience. So this podcast is merely for our Audible podcast. Anything else before we?
No.
Sign off. Anything else happening?
No.
Oh, I know what it was. I kept meaning to bring it up. I go, don't forget that you have His Glory.
I have my His Glory show today.
TV show that you do with your friend
Alejandra Bistrian.
I don't know her last name. I always forget it. Alejandra
broadcasts every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on His Glory TV. It's called Remnant Rising.
Remnant Rising. You have a guest today, or is it?
No, today it's all about me. And I want to share my experience of how my faith in Christ has impacted me in a really real way since my father's death. I had a really rough night last night. I could not sleep. I was tossing and turning. I'm just totally preoccupied. And then I listened to Encounter Christian Meditation, and they did this beautiful one about the light within. And they were explaining how in the time of, I believe it was Abraham, they could see the stars and they could see the galaxies and the configurations, but you can't see that anymore because of what they call light pollution. And it's all of the lights that are refracting from the earth and all of our appliances and street lights and everything else that prevent us from being able to see the stars anymore. And it was making the analogy that if you're so polluted internally with the light of the world, you cannot see the light of Christ in you.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
Really good.
Oh my God, it was so appropriate. I was like, Lord, clear my head of the lights of the world.
Great way of saying that.
Isn't it?
I love those. I'm going to use that as my own.
Oh, and it's just about being able to find my Jesus compass, where his light shines through all of the false lights that are surrounding me and distracting me. And it's like, that's what the meditation was about, is the focusing on the love of Jesus Christ and the light within in order to navigate all of the distractions and things that annoy us, aggravate us, hurt us, stress us out.
Like me, I have to be out of the other house in less than like 7 hours. And I still have stuff in the garage. The stress of life.
The stress of life.
Got to get all that stuff out. And there's like dust everywhere. I found some stuff from high school.
Wow. Yeah. You've lived in that house a long time. I got packing out of science. We did it 9 times in 10 years. I'm like a professional mover. Me and your daughter were laughing last night about you and your move. She's like, what is dad doing? Why is he doing this over like weeks and weeks and weeks? I'm like, your dad's got a whole like manly man way of doing this.
I've had it fitted in between all of our other stuff.
I know, but we both agree that you should have just gotten movers and hauled it a day. Yeah. No. See, that's what this is.
No,
man.
No,
he's doing it all himself. He's literally lifting whole furniture all by himself.
That's what they got to do.
I love you.
Anybody need freezers or refrigerator or washer and dryer? Come and get them.
Yep.
Today. It has to be today. And it's all yours for free. Come and get them. All right. Anything else, my love?
Nope.
But go to His Glory. Some great shows on there. What was your last interview? We didn't even talk about that one.
Oh, Pastor Shahram Hadrian. He's an amazing American patriot, Iranian Muslim convert to Christ, and he's just on fire. He's absolutely awesome. And that comes on this Saturday, 8:00.
Awesome. It's on His Glory.
His Glory, TV.me.
Perfect. All right. We're on Edifi, which is a Christian podcasting network. And it's an app that you have on your phone or on your iPad, or you can go there on a browser if you wanted to. But get the app, and this is how you do it. This podcast is part of the Edifi Podcast Network. Edifi is a faith-inspiring app that brings together thousands of the best Christian podcasts in one place for your listening enjoyment. Cut through the noise and grow your faith by diving into the world's top Christian podcasts today. Download the Edifi app for free from the App Store or Google Play, or by going to edifi.app. That's edifi.app. edifi.app. You go onto the App Store and then you put in.
Yeah. I just feel like we're bombarded with content, even Christian content. Like Pastor Jack referenced like 5 books last night that I was like, how do I condense and expand and contract time to be able to stick all that information into my brain? I would love to do that.
You reminded me. Oh my gosh, what's his name? He's on Fox, young dude. Oh my gosh.
Anywho.
Oh, I can't remember his name. He talked about a book that changed his life. He was part of Obama's team, I guess, in the beginning. He's a young guy though. He was like, you go and help people. Like you hang or put.
Interns.
Yeah, but you put when you're trying to get somebody elected.
Yeah.
You go out there and you try to put the signs on the grass for people, and you go around door to door,
sure,
and you tell them about the candidate and that kind of stuff. But he was doing it for Obama, and then he got a book entitled "How Should Christians Vote?" And he goes, "That book changed my life," and he became a conservative.
Nice. Well, I mean,
and
if the shoe fits.
I don't know why I can't think of his name. He's the black guy that he's a young guy. He's always traveling around and doing stuff for Fox. He's always like the Fox, and then he covers for the other hosts when they're not in. Gosh, I can't think of his name. I love him. He's a fantastic guy. I love him. He's amazing.
Nice.
But speaking of books, I downloaded that book because I had to read it, and
put it on the list of things to do.
Never going to
folks.
get to it. All right. Sorry about that. Another little squirrel. All right, my friends. We love you guys. Have a great Thursday.
Yes.
Close to the weekend, and next Thursday is Thanksgiving. Can't wait to see what you're going to do for Thanksgiving. All your fixins. Persian Thanksgiving. I've never had a Persian Thanksgiving.
Wait,
before.
What are you talking
it's gonna
about?
be so amazing. All right, my friends. We love you. God bless.
Bye. God bless.